Hey guys, Coach Nate here at Harbor Park CrossFit, and today we're going to talk about some rowing technique. Rowing technique in the world of CrossFit is kind of get on the rower and pull as hard as you can and get as many calories as possible, or time for meters, or meters for time. And just want to kind of clarify on some of that and kind of give you a better understanding of what rowing really is and what you should be focused on. You shouldn't be focused on calories per minute. You shouldn't be focused on how fast can you do meters. You should be focused on how much power can you put behind each stroke. The more power you can put behind each stroke, the more distance you're going to cover in a given time. Okay, so power in each stroke is going to generate more distance over time. That will also carry over into your calories. So you should never be focusing on those two things first, meters or calories. You should be focusing on each individual stroke in itself. Okay? The first thing we're going to talk about is why is that important. Okay? In CrossFit, we are a very posterior chain driven sport, and it means everything in your backside, your hamstrings, your glutes, and your back. So we are very posterior driven. If we can teach you how to drive off of your rowing foot pedals with your posterior chain, that's going to save your low back, and you're going to get a lot more power response out of movements like your thruster, your clean, your snatch. It's basically the same movement that you pull barbell off of the floor with. Okay? So again, generating maximum power per stroke is the goal today, and teaching you how to load the posterior chain. First thing we're going to talk about is damper setting. I've walked into too many gyms and I see everybody just walk over the damper and they slam it up to the top. Okay? In order to get a good water feel, you should be right around anywhere from a 5 to a 3 to get a really, really good stroke. If you're a harder rower, you should be at about a 5. If you're new to rowing and 5 or 4 is a little too much resistance for you to maintain proper technique and get a good stroke, then you should be somewhere around 3. I've even had people start around 1 or 2, but 3 is usually pretty good. That's going to help you understand what it feels like to actually row in the water. There's a flywheel inside of the rower, and just putting it up at 10 is going to help you really go slower. Okay, you're gonna put in that power in each stroke, but the meters aren't going to carry over, and you're not going to get a really good response out of the rower. It's just going to slow that flywheel down, and you're going to have to work twice as hard to get half as far. So 3 to 5 is where you want to be on your rower for your damper setting. Next, we'll talk about your foot pedals. Your foot pedals, everybody thinks the taller you are, the higher you should have your foot pedals, so maybe a 5 or a 6. And the shorter you are, you should have it around like a 1, 2, maybe a 3. And that's just not true. Okay? The pedal is here to raise your feet or lower your feet in relation to where the seat is. Okay? So the less mobility you have, think of coming in with your feet on the floor, right? I can get full extension through here. So if we have our feet lower on the pedal, that's going to help those that might have tight posterior chain or limited mobility. Okay? The higher your foot pedal goes, think of that 1 to 2, maybe 3 pedal setting, is where you're going to be if you have great mobility, or you can get really, really close into the catch. Okay? The other thing you want to focus on is we don't want to create too much of a knee angle here. Okay? Creating too much of a knee angle is going to lose power in your stroke. So we want to make sure that we're kind of maintaining that bottom deadlift position or that bottom clean position when we get into the catch. The last thing we'll talk about real briefly is transferring weight on the seat. Okay? Transferring weight on the seat. During your middle of your stroke, and you're going to be sitting nice and tall, we have three different positions in your row. We have the finish position, which is where you finish your stroke at the backside. We have your recovery position when you're recovering in to start your next stroke. And then we have the drive position, which is you actually driving your feet off of the pedals. Okay? In your finish position, you should be at about a 10 and the weight should be in the back of your seat. When we're talking about the recovery position, you should be at maybe a 2, maybe a 3, and the weight should be in the front of your seat. Okay? So finish position, 10, 11 o'clock, weight in the back of the seat. Recovery position, 2, 3 o'clock, weight in the front of the seat. Good. So we don't want to be way down here. Okay? So I would say maybe more around 2 o'clock. Okay? 2 o'clock is a good position to be in. No further forward than that. Okay? So in the finish position, we're going to grab the handle, and we always start in the finish. This is the easiest way to learn how to row. Okay? We want to make sure the handle is in the chest. But we also want to make sure that the shoulders are relaxed. So ideally you want to be in the chest, wrists relaxed, shoulders relaxed. But for some, if you're really tight, you might have to move that handle down towards your belly button in order to feel that relaxed position. And that can just come from tight T-spine, tight chest, tight shoulders. So the more you work on mobility, the better you're going to get at rowing, and the more power you're going to see out of your stroke. So ideally, you want to be right around that low chest with shoulders relaxed and wrists relaxed. Okay. Again, 10 o'clock. Good. Once we start our recovery position, we're going to sit forward and get those hands straight out. So you're going to basically punch those hands straight back towards the rower and sit nice and tall. Think of 12 o'clock on a clock. Okay, so 12 o'clock is nice and tall. When we start recovering in, you're going to get to your 2 o'clock. Okay. Legs should be about just unlocked. Okay? We don't want them totally snapped and tight, but we want them just unlocked, nice and gentle in the knees. So again, starting that recovery from here, legs are locked out, and then you're going to slight bend into 2 o'clock. You want to make sure your arms are coming straight into the rower. I don't have any on this rower, but a good way to know if your hands are coming in and out straight is to put some tape on the catch, and then just try and keep your rower chain in line with that tape. Okay. So again, recover position, the start of the recovery position is 2 o'clock. From here, you can start improving on your stroke. Okay? We want to extend the legs and sit back to 10 o'clock. Weight should be in the back of the seat. And you're going to load the front of the seat to 2 o'clock, slight leg bend, and extend back through. And load the front of the seat, extend back through. Make sure your shoulders are nice and relaxed. Load in the front of the seat, and extend back through to the finish. Once you get more and more comfortable with that finish position, then I'd say you're pretty safe to start bending your knees a little bit more and starting to come in towards your catch. Okay? Before we start coming into the catch and driving our feet off of the pedals, I highly recommend that you learn how to row with your feet out of the straps. Okay? That's going to teach you what a 10 o'clock angle feels like. If you lean too far, you're going to fall off the seat. Okay? So we don't want to fall off the seat. Make sure you find that 10 o'clock. If you go any further than 10 o'clock, those feet are going to want to come up, as you just witnessed. Probably a little bit more than I expected, but your feet will come up, and that just kind of lets you know that, hey, you're leaning too far back. So find that gentle position of 10 o'clock in your finish. Okay. As we start approaching the catch during our recovery position, the most important thing to think about is this is a leg drive, it's not an arm pull. Okay, so we're not coming in and pulling and then finishing with a leg drive. Okay? So we don't want it to be an arm pull. It is a leg drive first. This is leg drive first. So think of cleans, deadlifts, and snatches, all 3 pull movements from the floor. You are driving with your legs first, and then your arms are finishing once your legs have done the work. Okay? The rowing handle should increase speed from the time you start your drive to the time you finish with the arms. And we want to make sure that that handle is constantly moving faster. And think of moving that barbell into the hip. Okay, we increase the speed as soon as we pass the knee. If you guys listen to Coach Bergner, speed through the middle. We want speed once we pass the knee. As soon as those hips open up, we want fast hands into the chest. Okay. So starting from our finished position, we have 10 o'clock. We're going to sit nice and tall, load the front of the seat, quarter leg bend, and extend to the back. Load the front of the seat, quarter leg bend, extend to the back. Quarter leg bend, extend to the finish. Quarter leg bend, extend to the finish. And you can increase your range of motion, okay? Make sure you hit 2 o'clock first, half leg bend, extend to the finish. Load the front of the seat, half leg bend, extend to the finish. Again, make sure your handle is moving faster. Extend to the finish. Half leg bend, extend to the finish. And after you're comfortable at your half stroke, you can start moving into a 3/4 stroke. From the finish, sitting nice and tall. 2 o'clock on your seat, weight should be in the front. 3/4 leg bend, extend to the finish. 3/4 leg bend, extend to the finish. Good. And again, make sure it is a leg drive. Leg drive. Once you're comfortable at 3/4, you can start moving into full reps. Okay? So 10 o'clock, we're going to sit tall, load the front of the seat, slight leg bend, all the way into the catch, and open up. Again, just make sure your heels stay down towards the pad during your stroke. Think of pulling a deadlift on your toes or pulling a clean or a snatch off of your toes. Make sure that those heels are grounded. So we want heels grounded on the foot pedals. Okay? So increasing your performance with the row. We have a couple of drills that you can work on. You can simply just work on the finish, sitting tall to leaning back and pulling that handle into the chest until you get comfortable with that position. Then you can start by moving into a 1/4 leg bend to the finish, half leg bend into the finish, and 3/4 leg bend into the finish. Finally moving into full strokes. Talking about strokes per minute, we want to think about 16 to 18 strokes per minute. That's a really, really good learning rate for anybody who's new to this technique or new to rowing. Okay, I want you to think about maximum effort per stroke, and if we relate that to a power clean, okay, you're not going to be able to power clean your 1 rep max 28, 30, 32, 36 times in 1 minute. That's just unrealistic. So if we want to generate as much power as we can with the tension we have in the flywheel, it's smarter to work at a lower stroke per minute in the beginning until you understand how to drive your feet off of the pads than to just hop on the rower and pull like a wild man or a wild woman just to get meters or to get calories. This is totally worth slowing yourself down to speed it up. So I highly recommend 16 to 18 strokes per minute. Okay, that means powerful extension during your drive and then about a 3-second recovery on the way in. So I want you to think 1001, 1002, 1003. By the time you get into the catch, you hit 1003, you should be loaded and ready to pull again during your next stroke. Okay? So again, 16, that'll get you about 16 to 18 strokes per minute. The next thing you want to do is find a steady or solid 500-meter split time. And keep in mind, this isn't a split time of like, of just half power or moderate power during your drive. This is a 500-meter split time with maximum power in every single stroke. That's going to teach you how to drive with the legs on the rower instead of pulling with the arms. Okay? So make sure you're maintaining 16 to 18 strokes per minute when you start. Depending on how much time you spend on the rower, it might take you 2 months before you're ready to move from 16 to 18 into 20, maybe 22 strokes per minute. I know collegiate and Olympic rowers spend about 20 hours a week on a rower. So if it takes them about a month to progress through 16 to 18 strokes a minute during their prep season and move into 20 to 22 and then all the way upwards of 36, 37, 38 strokes a minute, I believe that's about a 6 to 8 month transition before you peak. So think of it that way. I mean, if they're spending 20 hours a week, maybe you're spending, 45 minutes, including WOD time, on a rower a week. That's not a whole lot of time. So take your time, be patient, and that'll help you understand the stroke rate. I know it's after a couple rowing clinics, it's taken me about 3 months to understand the rowing technique. So just stick with it. If you need help or references, you can always come back to this video for assistance. My recommendation would be to set a clock for like a half an hour and really hold yourself to that stroke rate and to your 500-meter split. If you deviate from your stroke rate, make sure it's between that 16 to 18. Okay? If you go 15 or if you go 19 due to fatigue, then that's your cue to hop off the rower, take a 2 to 3 minute break, and then get back on and restart. For your 500-meter split, so say your goal split is about a 205, you shouldn't deviate any more than a 204 to a 206, anywhere in there. If you go outside of that range, that's your cue. If it's due to fatigue, that you need to hop off and recover. So another 2 to 3 minutes, and then get back on and restart. Another good way is to get with a partner, and when you miss your stroke rate or you miss your 500-meter split, they're kind of there to help and assist and be like, hey, are you getting tired? And that's kind of your time to switch. So then partner A would hop off, partner B would hop on the rower, and they would go through the same thing, 16 to 18 strokes a minute, stick with your 500-meter split, and then if they deviate, partner A is like, hey, you're deviating, it's time to switch. It might only take you a minute to 2 minutes at first, but eventually you'll start to increase that time on the rower. I highly recommend, again, I can't stress this enough, 16 to 18 strokes a minute until you are ready and confident to pull at about 20 strokes a minute, and then just increase those strokes a minute by about 2 to 4 strokes maybe every month or every other month. Over time, if you can generate that same exact power from 16 strokes a minute and transfer that into 30, 32, 34 strokes a minute, number one, your cardio is going to be through the roof, but you're going to cover a lot more ground and you're going to get a lot more benefit out of that rowing in that capacity versus just rowing and just trying to go crazy with strokes per minute. So starting at 30 strokes a minute and then wondering why your legs aren't getting more powerful. So again, just a quick recap. Damper setting about 3 to 5. Foot pedals, the less mobility you have, the higher your pedal should be, so 5 or 6. The more mobility you have, should be about a 1, 2, maybe a 3. Loading the seat, make sure during your finish position the weight is in the back of the seat, and during your recovery position your weight is in the front of the seat. Think of finish at about 10, 11 o'clock and your recovery about 2 o'clock. Okay. Handle in the chest, shoulders should be relaxed, okay, during your finish position and during your pull. During your recovery, again, make sure the weight's in the front of the seat, arms are extended out fully and at a level position to the catch, and that chain should be nice and straight. And then recover with your leg bend and keeping your heels on the pad. And then once you're ready to drive, make sure that you're driving with your feet, not pulling with your shoulders. So drive hard with the legs, finish with the shoulders. That's going to create a whip effect on the handle, and it's going to be very similar to your sumo deadlift high pull or your power clean, your power snatch. Okay, so increasing that bar speed as we move through the middle. We want to increase that rower handle as we move through the middle as well. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to comment below. If you have any tricks or tips for anybody else who might be watching, please feel free to add those as well. Hopefully, we'll see you next time. Thanks. This is Coach Nate at Harvard Park CrossFit.